Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and welcome to the Elder Scrolls 6 Wishlist series, a series designed to help dictate the future of the Elder Scrolls franchise. Every Thursday, or at least I try at 12 PM Eastern Standard Time, to sit down and go through your wishes. What Bethesda should learn from the past, what should they continue to innovate on, and what should they do to continuously improve. We cover all of that in this series right here, and in today's episode we're going to be talking about questing and prerequisites to those quests. The following comment comes from Alex Malinowski. He says, I've been playing RuneScape and it has a lot of prerequisites for quests. For example, you need 50 attack and to complete quest A before you can start quest B. Not only does this pad out the game, but it makes developing your character much more rewarding and encourages you to complete quests that you may have otherwise ignored. Now I see what Alex is getting at, and I'm going to get into why this can and can't really work in a single player game, especially one that Bethesda creates. Prerequisites in questing can bar off a lot of the things the player wants to see. It would be really frustrating to go to a quester and say, hey, I want to help you out, and him tell you, oh, well, you don't have 50 in your two-handed category, so sorry, you can't come hang out. And because of that, you're missing out on a potentially good quest because of how you've built your character. And I think what we should focus on with his specific wish is that when he's talking about quests, I'd have to say he's talking about side quests, because there's a main story in every Bethesda Game Studios game, and I certainly wouldn't want to have faction storylines barred off because of a certain skill set that you need. Maybe to start off, for example, the Thieves Guild, you need 50 stealth. That would actually be pretty interesting as a prerequisite. And in fact, it would really make sense. And for a Warriors Guild of some kind, it would be really cool if you needed to be proficient in some type of fighting style at a skill of 75 or up. So yes, I can see how prerequisites could be rewarding in that way, but I don't want it to be in the sake of padding out the game, as Alex said, personally, because that's the worst thing games can do, is padding. I'd rather the game give me 2 quick, awesome hours rather than padding it out and doubling the length of that just for the sake of game length. Game length is fun when it's in substance and it's actual quality. When the game length ends up being stretched out constantly, it just never leads to good things. So I do see what Alex is getting at, where it does make your character much more rewarding. I could see how, for example, in my faction quest line suggestions, that could be rewarding, saying like, all right, I really do feel proficient and like I earned being in here, unlike in previous Elder Scrolls games where you could join and become the leader of every guild because you're basically God himself. But I think for that system to fully work, we'd need a leveling system like Skyrim, or else you'd be completely missing out on a lot of the content. Now, we've talked about, based off how you build your character, that you could miss out on certain quests and stuff, encouraging that second, third, and fourth playthroughs. But I felt that would be better fleshed out through choice and consequence through the story rather than through the gameplay. But then again, if you're going to be replaying the game, you have to consider that you're probably going to try to play it a different way, because what's the point of building one character, starting a whole new game over, and building that same character? So maybe the prerequisite system does have a lot more potential than it initially seems. But this is not an MMO. We do have to obviously consider that this is what we want to be, a hardcore RPG. So if anything, we'd want to go back to last week's episode and have them really focus on skill checks in the conversations to give us ways to work through the quest themselves, rather than prerequisites that bar us off from the quest itself and then tell us a direct story. Unless you're combining both, then that would actually be really interesting, and I'm curious to see how that would play out. Overall, I think Alex has a decent idea here. I love RuneScape personally, so this definitely tickles my nostalgia a little bit, but really the point of this idea, I think, is to highlight making the character that you have created feel special in some way, shape, or form, and that's been a big highlight of this series in general. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content we create here. Other than that, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.